I am acting as chair of the meeting today, and because of Commissioner Zach Renstrom's absence, his uncle, a decorated World War II vet, 94 years of age, passed away, and he is up north to participate in the funeral and recognizing and honoring his uncle. And so I want you to know that that's the reason that he's not here, and excuse him from today's meeting. Our first item of business today would be the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting routine matters which come before the Commission for approval. The consent portion of the agenda is approved by one non-debatable motion. If any commissioner wishes to remove an item from the consent portion of the agenda, that item becomes the first order of business on the regular agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve audit-approved claims for payment for June 20th, 2018 through July 10th, 2018. Approval of regular commission meeting minutes of June 19th, 2018, and work meeting minutes of June 25th, 2018. Approval of application for property tax abatement. Approval of Council of Aging Social Services Block Grant Contract with Washington County COA SSVG FY19 in the amount of $6,400 for the period of July 1st through 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Approval of FY 2019 5 County Association of Governments contract with Washington County Council on Aging and Nutrition Services, and approval or an acknowledgement of the publishing of the notice of adoption of ordinance 2018-1116-0 and ordinance 2018-1117-0 and ordinance number 2018-1118-0 on Saturday, June 23rd, 2018. And that's my motion.
I accept that motion, and for clarification on item D is $6,407.
Oh, very good.
Okay, with that minor amendment, if that
I will accept that $7
amendment. I accept that and second it, and all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Regular agenda items for consideration. The first item is consideration of purchase request, and we've got Ray Boyer that will present that.
Okay, so we have a bunch here for the Rose Department for some new equipment. The first one is for a new grader, which totals $251,415.73, but we get a 1-year buyback at $246,415.73, which leaves our portion at $5,000.
So we get a credit down of 246.
Yes.
Okay.
The next one is for another new grader at $251,415.73, with the 1-year buyback option at $225,000, which leaves our portion at $26,415.73. The next one is another grader, and the price on that one is $251,415.73, with the 1-year buyback option at $246,415.73, which leaves our portion at $5,000.
Okay, so that's for the public's clarification. There is a trade-in credit of $246,415. That would leave the net PO amount of $5,000 on that one as well.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is another grader, and this one has a little special option which worked out in our favor. The total for the grader is $251,415.73, but we got a better option, trading it into Wheeler, than doing it, the 1 year buyback to where we originally bought it. And so that trade-in amount is $244,000, which leaves our portion at $7,415.73. Now the next one is a really good deal for us. The reason it's coming to commission is because the piece of equipment, which is a new loader, is more than the $10,000 threshold, but we actually wind up with a credit. So the loader is $158,671, and the 1 year buyback actually turned out to be $171,000, which leaves us a credit of $12,329. So we actually, they're paying us money to get the loader, the new loader, and that money will be applied in other equipment purchases or parts or whatever we need.
Well, could that be applied against these $5,000?
It can be.
Okay.
Okay, and that's it for the roads department. And the last one is for the sheriff's department. It's a blanket EO for culinary purchases and for $20,000. And unless there's any questions, that is all.
Very good.
And
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the purchase requests that have been outlined by the chief.
And I will second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And again, just maybe for some clarification for the public, when we purchase these graders, we have an option as part of the contract to turn them back in after 1 year. We did that a year ago. So some of these graders that are only a year old are being turned back for that contractual cost, and we're buying a new grader. And so the cost of that grader for the past year has been essentially $5,000, which is on a year-for-year cost is a very good way of purchasing these, and makes a lot of economic sense for the county to do so, and that's why we're doing that. So thank you, Ray, and your approvals are noted. Item number 2, consideration of canvass of June 26, 2018 primary election, and for that we have Melanie Ablanat.
Hi, it's good to see everybody. It's nice to have another election over with. It's always nice when the canvass day comes.
Have you caught up on your sleep, Melanie?
Yes, just in time to get sleep deprived for the next. So, but we did have, of course, a successful primary election that we had just a few weeks ago, and of course we are here as mandated, since we do have military and overseas voters. We are mandated to go the whole 14 days after an election before we have a canvass, so that's why we're here today. But on election night, of course, the election is never final. It's one of the things that's hard for some people to understand is there's a lot of other counting and other things that we have to do before we get the official results. And so on election night, we actually had a pretty good turnout. We had 19,180 voters show up, either early voting or absentee or by mail, or of course at their location on election day. But after that day, we've been able to add in another 759 eligible votes. Some of those were provisional ballots. Some of them were additional absentees. And so the question that people always ask is, okay, do you just stop counting votes? And the question is, the answer to that is, no, we count everything that's eligible. We'll stop when everything is done. So without some, so I'll just go ahead and we'll get into some details here. One of the details that I thought was kind of interesting is we had 359 provisional ballots. And of course here in we had a Republican-only primary election, there wasn't a need for any of the other parties to have a primary. And so I kind of gave you a little snapshot of some of the reasons why we wouldn't count a provisional.
Melanie, could you just explain for some of us that may not know what a provisional ballot is?
A provisional ballot is basically a glorified voter registration form where somebody will fill out the form, give us some ID and some information about themselves, and they'll vote a paper ballot. And in this circumstance, the number one reason why somebody would do a provisional ballot is if they were ineligible for that Republican Party ballot. So, some of the reasons why, so we had 4 of those ballots that were incomplete. We had one where the voter didn't have any ID and could not provide ID. We had 9 that people couldn't prove that they resided in the polling location. And we had 147 ballots that we could not count because those voters were affiliated with other political parties. So, but the provisional ballots work, they're wonderful, I love them. And it's kind of an interesting snapshot there. And early voting, we are mandated to have early voting. We had 9 days of early voting. We had 4 locations and had 1,415 residents take advantage of that, which is pretty small turnout, 1.91% turnout.
Say that again, 1%?
Almost 2%. So we've seen things dwindle over the last few years, so that's kind of sad. Polling location on election day, there were 9,777 residents that took advantage of that, so 13.17%. Absentee or by mail, 8,388 residents, so 11.0%, so we're about half and half. So interesting on that status. And then of course the provisional ballots were just a minute, not even 1% of that total. So the canvas totals, after we added the unofficial election night, all of our current eligible that we were able to, the final tally of voters who came in was 19,939 voters at a 26.86% turnout.
But that's kind of deceiving because it's a Republican primary and
That is absolutely correct. So
That's just because the other parties did not have any primary races.
that is true. That is true. So you can think, I mean, probably close figure for the Republican-only residents, about 43 to 45% turnout. So
which isn't bad for the middle of June.
no, not too bad.
Yeah, I've seen it 13%.
All right, so I will go ahead and read in the races and their totals. Okay, so for U.S. Senate, Mitt Romney had 11,094 votes for 55.74% turnout. Mike Kennedy had 8,808 votes for 44.26%. Mark, I will slaughter his last name.
Barowiak.
Barowiak. For House 71, he had 1,204 votes for 29.85% turnout. Brad Last had 2,830 votes for 70.15% turnout. Of course, for our commission seat, Bill Lundquist had 12,673 votes for 65.97% turnout. And Alan J. Davis had 6,537 votes for 34.03% turnout. So that's the final results.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we need to accept that.
Melanie, thanks for all you do. I don't think the voters realize how hard you work to put this election on. They think it just happens and it doesn't. It takes a lot of work.
Oh, come on now, they think I work 2 days a year.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Well, I'd accept the motion and to accept the
Mr. Chairman,
results of the canvass.
I'll make a motion that we accept the canvass of the election, of the primary election for 2018.
And I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I noticed that Gil and Jill are in the crowd. Congratulations. And I don't think that we've got any of the others that are here, but we recognize your hard work and
Thank you.
you bet. Item 3, a public hearing to consider appropriation of funds to 2 for-profit organizations, the Family Roots Conference and Zion Canyon Music Festival. Before we actually open this up for public comment, I would like to invite Kevin Lewis, our Director of Tourism, to come up and walk us through this process a little bit about what we're doing and what the public will be commenting on and how these funds and how this works. If you do that, Kevin.
Fantastic,
I
thank
can
you.
recognize you.
Thank you, Commissioners. It's good to have a chance to kind of talk this through because it is a little bit confusing, or can be from the outset. As you know, tourism is a pretty dynamic economic driver. It infuses a lot of outside revenue into the economy, and it's a prime component in the Governor's Economic Development Plan, which has been pretty effective in our state, as we've seen. The overall economic benefits of tourism are pretty far-reaching. The outside dollars kind of churn the economy, and they bring local business opportunities and creative energy and inspiration in our communities. Some important things I think to consider as we go into this public hearing. Tourism revenues create nearly 8,500 jobs in Washington County. Tourism activity sparks investment in additional tourism-related businesses and assets that the residents of the communities get to enjoy. Tourism tax revenues are actually used to offset our personal tax revenues. In fact, the studies show that tourism in our area provides $1,200 in annual relief to every household in the county. So these taxes are actually benefiting our residents in that way, that they're relieving some of the tax burden that they would have for other things like health and education and public safety. There are 2 tourism-related tax sources that have been created by the legislature to facilitate this economic growth. One of them is Transient Room Tax, or TRT. And the second is, this is a long one, Tourism, Recreation, Cultural, Convention, and Airport Facilities Tax. And the acronym for that has been shortened to TRCC. Only a small portion of that second tax is utilized by the tourism office, and those taxes are not used for what we're considering tonight. And so I won't go into detail about that one, but I thought it would be good to understand how TRT works. Basically what happens is when a visitor from outside the area comes and stays in a hotel, they pay what's called a Transient Room Tax, or TRT. From those taxes, Washington County receives 4.25% of the total cost of the hotel room or the lodging, okay? And so that comes from all of the rooms in the county, and in 2017, that amounted to $7.7 million transient room tax for the county. So usage of those TRT funds has really strict guidelines. To begin with, spending from TRT funds must be approved by the Washington County Tourism Advisory Board, which is a volunteer board that consists of members that have to be employees of entities that are subject to that TRT tax, so hotel operators and other tourism businesses. And then others must be employees from tourism-related industries in the county, so that's what that board consists of. By law, 2.25% of the revenue must be used by the tourism office for, and this is a quote from the law, establishing and promoting recreation, tourism, film production, and conventions. So those funds are dictated to be used for those purposes. And the marketing efforts in our county have been extremely successful in the past. Since 2006, tourism revenue has grown, tax revenue has grown by an average of 13% annually. So that's been really successful in the way that that's gone for our county. Obviously, we use those for a number of different marketing strategies, and over the years, one of the successful ways that we've found to utilize some of those funds has been working with event organizers who are specialists in those kind of events. The neat thing about that is that they bring unique events to the area and unique people to the area by creating an event and then marketing it. And by working with those event organizers who understand who their audiences are, we're able to pinpoint our marketing dollars directly at the participants who already have an interest in the activity. So to facilitate the usage of funds for those kind of things, we have a really specific process. I'm just going to take you step through that so that the public will understand the
Can
process.
I ask a question really fast?
Sure,
Before I lose my train of thought. 2.25%, you said is mandated to be used for advertising. If, after we have the public hearing and take an action, if these funds were approved, would they count towards that mandated 2.25%?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
these are dollars that would go part of that 2.25%. And the other 2% of the 4.25, just for explanation, those are used and legislated to be used. They can be used for facilities and infrastructure, things like the Dixie Center, the airport, things like that.
Brick and mortar
Brick and
type
mortar
projects.
Yeah. So the co-funding application process works like this. The organizers submit an application specific to the type of funding that they're seeking. The applications have a number of questions that are specific to those things, but they're reviewed by the tourism office first and evaluated by some fundamental criteria. And that criteria, I'll just list the core parts of that. Economic impact, which is determined by the number of hotel nights that are going to be generated by that event and the number of participants that will be in the area and how long they're going to stay. Their marketing and their event strategy. So what kind of a marketing plan do they have? Where are they going to spend these dollars? Because these dollars are funded for marketing purposes. And so we look at their marketing and their event strategy and see how they're going to be spent. What is the media exposure from the event? Will we get a lot of great publicity from it? Will the television stations report on it? Are there other assets that come, media assets that bring value to that? The event history and the potential for growth. But how long has this event been going? What's the history of it in other areas if it's new to our area? And what's the potential for growth? We're looking for events that will bring growth and further economic development. Event quality, visitor demographics, and the quality of life impacts. So we take a look at those aspects. What type of an event is it? What kind of people is it going to bring? How is it going to impact the quality of life here? The time of year is important because we have some kind of seasonal times where we're heavily impacted by tourists, and so we want to look at, does this fit into a time of year when it would be beneficial to us? And then also the location, depending on where the event is held, may have an impact on whether worthy of receiving some of these funds. So we go through that process with these deep criteria, and then we put together a summary of the evaluation of that application and present that to the Tourism Advisory Board. They'll get a copy of our evaluation along with the application to review. And then in an open meeting, the Tourism Advisory Board goes over those applications, discusses them, and makes a motion to either recommend funding or not. And if the funding that's recommended is for a for-profit event, like the two that we're considering tonight, then a public hearing is held. And that's why we're here tonight, is to go through the public hearing process so that the commission can hear public's input and make a determination based on all of the information that's been gathered at this point, if this is valid. And then once that public hearing goes, then the commission will hear that, the motion, or the presentation of those events, and make a motion to either approve or fund. So that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you, Kevin. That was very educational. Do we need to open the hearing by motion, or do we just convene the hearing and allow public comment? We will open this up for public comment. I would only ask that we not be repetitive in the comments and
State your name for the record.
yes, state your name for the record. So the public hearing is now open. If you've got any opinion on either of these two projects,
I should probably introduce those, shouldn't I? If you want me to do that, what the
you
two
should do
events
what?
are. Introduce the two events that
Okay.
we're considering.
Go ahead.
One is the Roots Technology Conference. It's held in the Dixie Center in September, and the other one is the Zion Canyon Music Festival in Springdale.
Thank you. We're now open for public comment.
I have a question. My name is Richard.
Could you step up to the
Sure.
microphone and give us your name?
Sure.
both of these. And I didn't bring them, so I don't remember the numbers exactly. But the real question is there any way to verify that the projected number of nights in a hotel revenue coming in, is there any way to verify that those are true and accurate numbers? Or if they're not able to verify, what good are they?
It's a good comment, Kevin. Although this is a hearing, maybe you could.
Sorry, can we get your name for the record?
Richard Faulkner.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Richard. That's a good question. On new events, it's a little tricky to project what might happen unless you've got data from other places where those events have been held. But we ask each of the, one of the requirements of receiving this co-op funding is that at the end of the event, there is a report that's completed that shows where the money was spent, receipts for that documentation, and we ask them to survey and collect data on the event activity so they can tell us who came and when they came.
So I know one of the other for-profits that we've done has been the Ironman, and people typically will ask them, are you staying in a hotel and how many nights? Can you make that a requirement of these events that they gather that? Because I think it's information that we want to know the answer to.
Yeah, we did. That is a part of the post-event recap. Now, you know, I will say that in some cases it's a little tricky, like an event like an Ironman where you have a registration process and people have to check in. You can get that data a little bit better in some of these more public events where it's kind of, you know, anybody comes in wherever, it's a little harder to get that data, but we ask them to do the very best they can to report that data. How many people attended? Is it ticketed? Is it, and what information can you gather from them via surveys after?
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I make another one then?
Why not?
Can you make up another name this time?
Could you maybe spell your last name for the record?
Falconer.
Thank you.
I guess my next question would be, why is this money just given to these for-profit organizations and not a loan, a grant, or some other stipulation to it?
Okay, the money is not given to them. They purchase advertising that's consistent with the guidelines that we have established. And so if they advertise in an out-of-county area, they bring the advertising, and correct me if I'm wrong, and the amount of it, and if it's within the things, then we then reimburse them for the advertising that they place that is advertising Washington County or a county event.
Okay, but if they're a for-profit, and if they show you their books, and if they're making money, why don't they cover this themselves? Why are we using...
That's why you tell us whether you think we should do that or not.
Well, obviously, I lean towards not, the government shouldn't be picking winners and losers in any of this sort of thing. If it's a for-profit, if you have a non-profit organization doing something, that's one thing, and I'm kind of all for that, within reason. But if it's a for-profit, they have to carry their own weight, or there has to be some sort of an agreement that this isn't just a handout because we like you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? And if not, I will declare the hearing closed. Slade, have you got a comment?
Geez, I figured you're mad. You locked me out.
Oh, gosh.
I didn't even make it that mad.
We're in a public hearing, and if you've got any comments about the resolution that's being discussed, you're welcome to listen or...
I'm locked out the whole time.
Okay, hearing is closed then.
Very good.
So the next item on our agenda is consideration of Resolution R-2018-2342. Would we like to...
Well, both item 4 and 5 are, even though they're separated, they're really addressing each one of these issues. The first is the family roots, and then item 5 on our agenda is the Zion Canyon Music Festival. Now, I'm glad Richard's here, and he's probably here more for the shooting sports park item, but we did have quite a bit of robust blowback Facebook, as it was approaching the election in regards to these two issues. I mean, we have, kind of opened the transparency on this. We've really tried to follow the law more closely with the advice of counsel. And, state law does say that we need to have a public hearing whenever we're going to, appropriate money for for-profit organizations like this. And so, I do have, a little bit of concern on family roots. I feel like I question or I wonder, is it really going to bring heads and beds, or is it simply more of a domestic, folks that already are here, that are, kind of like a garden show or something else that we have placed in the town. And then the Zion Canyon Music Festival has been going on for quite a few years. It was sponsored for a while by the town of Springdale, and then it's recently been gone into a for-profit organization. I think this is its second year. And I would prefer that Springdale be here as a sponsor, and that the county simply, coordinate with Springdale on being a sponsor. So those are kind of my two concerns about both of these items.
I know that we have the Englishes are here, and I think we might have somebody from Zion Music Festival as well. So if we have any of those particular questions, I would invite them to come up maybe and speak to your concerns. If you have any questions for me.
Yeah, I think, well, I guess our first item is Zion Music Festival. So, well, no, I apologize. Both of them.
Family roots is first.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Amy?
First of all, thank you for considering our application. We appreciate that. I wanted to go ahead and provide you with a short kind of synopsis of where the advertising money went last year. If you had any questions on that, we spent $4,000 on social media advertising out of the market, $600 on magazine out of the market, $1,400 on TV to KSL, $3,000 on billboards out of the market, and radio out of the market, $6,000. So as you can see, that's way more than we were even granted for the grant.
So how much were you granted last year?
10,000, and this year I think we're up for 6,000, which we spent.
How much last year again?
I'm sorry?
How much last year?
It was 10.
How much did you spend
That
last year?
is 10, 11, 5, 12, 15,000 out of market, and that doesn't include what we spent in the market as well.
So the county is mandated to spend 2.25%. Now this is not specific to your issue, on out-of-market area for bringing visitors in. And the county made last year a $10,000 grant. You spent 15 advertising Washington County.
Correct.
So in a way, we got $15,000 worth of benefit for a $10,000. That's one way that it can potentially be looked at.
Right.
Can you give us any information, and I don't want to hold you back from your presentation, did you gather any statistics on how many of your visitors were from out of the
I
area?
did. If I can get to that in just a second, would that be
That would
okay?
be fine.
I'll show you. This is the kind of ad we're going to be playing this year. That's just a 15-second one. We'll have ones that are longer, but I didn't want to take up too much time. So this is our event last year. We had John, by the way. This is our free youth event. That's one thing a lot of people don't know. It's probably 50% of our event is free to the public. And this was the Interfaith Youth Choir that sang there. That's the youth there at the event. That's the schedule. Interestingly enough, Yara Dally spoke there, who's a relative of the person on social media who has been an injection to their cousins.
I would do appreciate it.
And that's Kiara right there. And I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she lost her hand in an accident. And she kind of wanted to get into public speaking, and so we wanted to give her that opportunity to share her story. And that's kind of what this event was about for the youth, is learning to share our own stories for family history. I loved what she said, live the way you want to be remembered. That's John, by the way, and then we arranged a special event with her with Gentry. They were our concert, and she idolized them, so we arranged for her to meet them as well. And that's her post. So that doesn't even include the kind of out-of-market advertising we get because of people reposting things on social media as well. We also held a veterans concert. So we honored veterans, and we held an auction as well at this event, at this concert. And we donated, even though we're not a nonprofit, we donated $847 to the Utah Honor Flight Fund and $3,932 to the Utah Guard Charitable Trust. And they told us that those would benefit our local veterans, that they would keep back here in our market. This is a picture of a couple of members of the Interfaith Council that you know. They are heavily involved. This is probably the largest public event that they are involved in. They give prayers, they give introductions in the rooms, and our the Interfaith Choir also sings at our keynote sessions. We are having, the Native Americans came last year, and this year, in addition to that, they are having a powwow at our event. I know several years ago they tried that and it didn't completely get off the ground. We're trying to spur that again because they just have such great, rich heritage, and we want to share that here in St. George. These are several of our free events that we do for the public. All of the expo booths are free, and then we have some fun activities for the kids. There's panning for gold. They have a blacksmithing area set up where they can learn how to blacksmith, candle making, and this is all free. And then there's free family pictures that they can come in and take of their families. We had some displays of the historical nature of St. George. This is one of our keynotes. The Osmonds came and spoke on family traditions and why they matter. Another family picture. These are some of our vendors. So all of these are from out of town. And I have some stats on those in a minute as well. Our booth. That's me donating the money to the National Guard. This is our, and I have one here for you if you'd like it, our poster for this year. And we've already started distributing those in Logan and Ogden and Salt Lake. One of the things that we are working on this year as well is women's suffrage, and possibly these are our two focuses we want to do for nonprofits this year, where we help digitize records for women's suffrage. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Your anniversary.
Yes, so it's big, it's important. So we're trying to see if we can help them digitize records. That's my dad, my inspiration for getting into this. He put in 3,000 names into our family history. This is the other one. This is called Turn Community Center, and they help adult children with disabilities. So that's the other one we're trying to focus on for our nonprofit this year. That's just an example of our schedule. These are mostly accredited genealogists that teach our classes. They're all from out of town. They're from the UGA. And so you can see we're trying to put on a quality event that puts St. George on the map. This is stats from my website recently. This shows where I'm getting hits from all over the United States and even some out of country that I pulled up. These are some stats of some people that visited last year. I think it's really interesting to see all the different countries that are looking at this event. And there's the latest map that I just downloaded this last week. And one from Mexico. Well, one thing that I wanted to mention is that genealogy is the second largest hobby in the world. I don't think many people realize that. And so DNA testing and all of that is part of our event. And it's just an exciting thing to have in our area. Here are the stats. These are our exhibitors. So you're asking about heads and beds. more than half of them required hotel rooms. Let's see, last year.
Do you advertise on your social media the free portions of the event
We
as
do.
well, that are open for everybody at no charge?
Exactly. And that was just our exhibitors. I don't have the one from that I submitted last year to the CBB, but there were others as well. There was about 100 beds that were from people who just came from out of town as participants as well.
Thank you.
Very good presentation.
Any further questions? If not, I would consider a motion on item 4. Oh, thank you. We're kind of in the dark, aren't we?
Yeah. So $6,000 this year is what?
6,000. Their request, by the way, was for 10,000. It went before the Tourism Tax Advisory Board. This board is set up of the actual participants, hotels, restaurateurs, and others who collect the tax. Their recommendation to the commission was for $6,000.
Oh, well. I'll make a motion that we approve the 6,000.
And, you know, I really had some real reservation on this, but this has been very educational for me, seeing that parts of it are available at no charge. They have kept statistics and will keep statistics this time on trying to estimate as accurately as they can how much that is, so that, but anyway, I will second your motion. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Item number 5, and I don't know your name, but maybe you'd step up and tell us a little about it as well, and state your name for the record.
My name is Lex Diazevedo II.
I missed that.
Did you catch that? Reed?
Lex Diazevedo
Thanks.
II. Deazevedo.
Got it. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm so used to saying it, and I realized that you guys said, who said what? So the Zion Music Festival, this is the 10th annual music festival. It's been going on for 10 years. The town of Springdale has been producing it. It literally landed in our laps last year. Alex, when I say we, Alex Pelton, my partner, and myself, landed in our laps last year, and we pretty much had to scramble to produce it. The reason why it landed in why I say that is the music festival was always subject to the will of a city council. And depending on the city council for that year, some said, hey, we don't think we should be doing a music festival, and then the entire town would be up, there would be an uprising and riot, and they would come in and you'd have these giant city council meetings, and finally they'd say, okay, we're gonna do the music festival. So after several years of that, Alex and I, who had been involved with it, Alex actually started it, we said, hey, for this festival to survive, we're gonna have to take it out of the hands of the city and put it into a private company, whether that's nonprofit or profit. We hadn't quite decided yet what would be the best business formation. So we kind of had a few months to prepare for it. We suggested we take it over 2018. They said, we'll give it to you in 2017. We said, oh, okay, we'll do our best. So fortunately, someone recommended, say, hey, this festival is something that the tourism board is looking for these projects. And we said, hey, great. And that was very helpful to us as far as producing that with such short notice. This year, we're kind of in the same situation where there was a lot of turnover on the process and those kind of things. And I was working in Florida, and Kevin said, "Hey, Bill, can you send me your application today?" So I said, "Oh." So we got that taken care of as best as we could with letters of recommendation. So about the festival, it's a community music festival. It's always been a community music festival. The goal was to keep it as inexpensive as possible, and for many years it was free. It was free to the community members and free to the visitors of Springdale. We've had to kind of raise it from $3 to $5 and from $5 to $10. So right now it's a $10 music festival, which is pretty affordable because we always like to say anywhere else this is a $40 per day event. So we're trying to keep the cost down and make it a family. Well, it is a family event. So we advertise as a family-friendly event. Music that you probably haven't heard of before, anywhere from country to rock to jazz to blues. And the most unique thing about it is that it's an amazing music festival held in Zion. There's no other events, any kind of music events, attractions like that have been going on this long. So we being that we brand it as Zion Canyon Music Festival, the name itself, gets attention to Zion Canyon, to Washington County.
Gate is $10.
Excuse me?
The gate is $10.
$10 for adults, $5 kids, free for
And
300.
the venue is
The OC Theater.
Tanner.
Yes.
How many people attend?
So last year, I believe we had, and now I'm going to, little caveat here, there's a completely new director over at the university, and we haven't been able to get some of the data yet. The numbers were, we had 3,000 attend over the 2 days, because it's a Friday event and a Saturday event.
How many were kids? What was your total gate income if it were all adults and you had 3,000, 30,000?
Those are one of the pieces of information I don't have right now. We never got a breakdown because of our relationship with the OC Tanner. They had to run all of the ticket sales through their websites, so we actually weren't privy to some of those breakdowns. And when we said, hey, we kind of need some of those data, or some of that data, the director left and just barely was replaced, the director of the OC Tanner.
Have you considered running this in partnership with the university so that it was a university-sponsored event?
So, yes, in last year, that's actually what we did. The partnership was, because they knew it was our first year as producing the event, although it has a good history, it's a different organization. What we ended up doing is they said, instead of just paying the flat fee, we'll do this based off of a percentage. So that way, if you don't do too well, you're not gonna go broke. If you do very well, it ended up being the most successful event that they had last year. We ended up, their percentage ended up being more than what we had paid, what we had paid for if it was just a flat fee. Meaning they definitely benefited from that percentage, but we were very grateful because they offered many things that small business on short notice couldn't put together.
How do we know that it's not mostly Springdale residents? I love Springdale residents, but the purpose of this is to bring people from out of the area.
Mm-hmm.
Any statistics, anything that you've done to help us
The previous
determine whether or not that would be a good investment of our dollars?
And we've talked about that, and we're completely open to saying what is the best way to do that, because even though someone shows up without giving a thorough survey of every person, because there is no registration, and they had to pay for tickets online. Now we could say, we can download, and this is one of the things we requested. We wanted to see how many, because they'll at least get a zip code, so we can at least identify how many people from outside a zip code pay for that ticket. But that doesn't answer the question, how many of you came for this event versus how many were already here. So that's the tricky part with an event that size, and if it's required that we survey everyone that walks through the door and say, where are you from, are you here, are you here for this event? Are you staying? But that becomes a little bit intrusive, but if there's.
Couldn't you maybe do some analytics, Google Analytics or something like that on the website and?
Well, but that doesn't show us, but that doesn't show, see, for example, that when they placed the ticket order, once again, we can see that they're from who's out of town. That doesn't tell us necessarily, that doesn't.
Good for us, because even if they
Right.
come and someone says, hey, there's a concert in Springdale and we can visit the park and go to Tuacahn, they could have more than one reason for coming down, but for me, I'm keenly interested to know how many of our dollars are being spent to attract people from out of the area.
Okay, so we should be able to get that data. We, at least the credits, the zip codes based off of the ticket sales. And that is something that, once again, when the previous director of the Tanner left, they just barely filled it, and so they will not have a concert series this year, with the exception of our event. Most likely will be.
What's the date of the event?
This is the last weekend in September, so it's
We got
28th and
months, we
29th.
need to start advertising. And the town of Springdale is a contributor, but for the last 2 years, they were the original sponsor of the event, and then they kind of.
So previously, they produced it as a town event. And so if they made, and they always broke even, you know, that was the goal. It was kind of a celebration of the end of some of the wrapping up of the tourism festival, or the tourism season, and kind of saying, hey, we're gonna do a wrap party for season. Now the seasons are getting much longer, so that's no longer the goal. But it's more to just keep this really unique music festival going in Springfield.
Because in the past, we've had kind of sidebar conversations with the town, and we've kind of questioned them why they didn't play a bigger role in it. Frankly, that's the way I preferred, is if Springdale was here saying, hey, we're gonna do this music festival.
And we actually had a conversation. At what point were these tourism funds available for this type of use? Like in what year was that available? Is this something relatively new, or is this been out there for a while?
TRT's been on the books as a state.
It's been around for a long time.
At least 10 years.
And quite frankly, I think it's always an uphill push. If this was a not-for-profit event that was attracting people in, it'd be a lot lower threshold for me. I can't speak for Commissioner Iverson. But we are going to ask a lot of questions. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny for-profit entities, because I think for-profit entities basically are motivated to make a profit, and they should do that without the government picking, as one gentleman stated, picking winners and losers. And so that's part of this hurdle. I don't think we're here to just hand out dollars. Speaking for myself again, the airport, Dixie Center, one of the items that we've approved recently is a mountain bike venue that certainly will be a draw for out-of-area participants. There'll be no charge for them. It's sponsored by the city of St. George. If our local residents want to go use that bike park, they're welcome, and they can do it at no charge. And so that creates a win-win, and there's just not a profit motive. We're not picking winners and losers on it. And so for me, there's a bit of a hurdle in a for-profit entity. If you were doing this as a not-for-profit, and it was a great venue that people who were visiting Zion Park could enhance their stay, and if residents wanted to go, they could do it. That creates a win-win. It's easier for me. But knowing that if we approve $8,000 for advertising, that you're not going to have to pay to promote your event, and it's going to result in a bigger profit for you at the end of the day. You're not giving it back to the National Guard or whatever, and I'm not saying that was key the other one, but anyway, those are my reservations, and I'm just verbalizing them out loud. I've done this, been a commissioner, this is my second year. Every for-profit has been a hurdle for me to get past, and I'm not sure where Commissioner Iverson's at
Well,
on this.
Lex, there's a couple things.
Can I address real quickly?
Absolutely.
I completely agree with you. And the, one of the things is that we haven't quite decided what our status should be, because we are such a new entity. The reason why it took no time to create an LLC, it's literally paperwork and we're up and running, we're out the door. As far as the way that we function, if you want to talk about the difference between for-profit and nonprofit, we don't have shareholders, we're not dividing, you know, when you talk about profits, the difference between profit and nonprofit, we are so small, we run like a nonprofit. If we have any money left at the end of the year, we're reinvesting that into the Zion Canyon Music Festival. That's the only reason why we're doing this. This isn't a full-time job. This is a once-a-year project that we believe in and carrying that forward. So,
We're not accusing you of getting.
oh, I know. I'm just saying.
Festival.
Just saying. You know, if there's money in the account, it is going into the next year's music festival.
And for-profit's good. I mean, I ran a for-profit business for 35 years. That's what pays our taxes. We honor and salute people that do things for profit. It's just when we start putting taxpayer money into that for-profit, we've really got to see the return on it, like anything else that we've spent tax dollars on. You'd want us to do our due diligence.
Yes, I would.
There's a lot of for-profits that feel like they're run for nonprofits. But here's the, you've already addressed and admitted that the community festival, the music festival, is kind of at a crossroads and trying to figure out where you're at. I'd like to table the motion today and have it come back. And two things I'd like is if you could pull just a little bit more, get with the college. But I think to kind of let us know what's going to be the ongoing relationship with the town of Springdale. Is the town of Springdale, I mean, they've written us a letter of support,
Mm-hmm.
but where's their relationship in supporting in the future? Because we don't want to, you know, the festival is kind of struggling right now, and there's no need to keep propping up through advertising dollars a festival that might not be here next year. Part of the goal in these dollars also is not just to advertise and bring people here, but to help events start to develop themselves so that they really do become kind of institutionalized in our community. So, I mean, I'd be curious for you to bring back and just maybe visit a little bit more with the town. I mean, Rex, or,
There's Stan.
no,
There's the mayor, and then
what's
there's
up?
Rick.
Who's
the
I
manager.
was gonna say Rex, and I knew that wasn't right. You're Lex,
He's Rick, yes.
yes, exactly. But I think the university, you need to probably reach out to the OC Tanner and say, okay, we're having this annual festival, where are we at? Can we at least have some sort of understanding that we're gonna be quasi-partners that's going forward? So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we table this and
Okay.
and then just have you come back if that's okay.
So you would like me,
Just work with Kevin. I think, Kevin, you understand those two things. I'd like you to solidify or clarify what your relationship with your two public partners really.
Well, I can answer that.
Yeah.
I mean, I can answer that right now. I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. But
Well, I think we've got a motion to table
okay.
right now.
And that brings us back
We're
to
gonna
the
look back
data.
with some more information, and I'd like to know if you can work with the college and find out, maybe on those zip codes, maybe you
Okay.
can. But anyway, I will accept your motion to table.
Okay.
And Lex, I thank you for coming up and speaking and addressing this, and can work with Kevin and we can get this back on an agenda. It's not a no, it's a request for more information.
And that's fair enough. I appreciate that.
And so, motion has been made to table resolution R-2018-2342. I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is item 6. A consideration of resolution number R-2018-2344. A resolution adopting the standards described in the National Rifle Association Range Source Book as the minimum standards at the Southern Utah Shooting Sports Park. Commissioner Iverson, you've been point on this. I will let you speak to it, and but others.
Yeah, we have
speak.
Chief Axel from Hurricane City here to talk about an incident maybe that we had. Obviously, we have the Purgatory shooting range. It's been functioning now, Brent, for 20 years almost?
Yeah,
We're pretty close.
We're in the 20th year, 20-year lease.
Yes. And of course, the range use is going up, and we have had concerns with safety, and we've invested quite a bit recently in trying to improve the range, not only for the benefit of our citizens, but also we continue to have concern that safety is an absolute. And so we've invited Chief Axel to come. I don't know, could you
He's here.
please address us? It's good to see you, the chief.
Good to see you.
Better to see each other than to be viewed, right?
That's always the best case at our age. Commissioners, it's really an honor to actually come and be at your meeting. I know you've been to the Hurricane City Council meetings a few times, and we do appreciate that. The City of Hurricane does appreciate everything the County Commission does on the part of the county and for the City of Hurricane as well. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes. I want to first of all let you know how great it's been to work with Ron Whitehead. Even speaking to my sergeant over to my detectives numerous times on this, he has expressed to me how great it's been to work with Ron, how Ron's been so supportive, been real accommodating with us, and I want Ron to know how much we do appreciate everything he does. Ron and I have talked numerous times, and I do appreciate everything that he does to support this. I've looked over the proposals. I know you want to know about, you asked about some incidents. We did have a recent incident that was kind of more critical, and that was on 6/4/18. But I went through what we had, and Ron's got a copy of this, and I don't know whether I assume you guys have, but we've had going back as far as we could actually document and pull this up since 2010 through date, we've had 17 incidents reported up in the subdivision right above the shooting sports park, been related to bullets, bullet fragments found in that particular area. And I've read the report that has been done, and I think going through the National Rifle Association and what you've done there, and I've read their entire report as well, and I think they've made some absolutely incredible recommendations in there that I think could definitely alleviate some of our problems and concerns there. And so I believe you guys are right on the right track to make this happen. A couple of things that I'd be more than glad to answer any questions that you guys may have. But a couple of things that I want to really encourage at this particular point is, again, the support of Ron and making sure he is empowered to make sure that things happen that are there. And, to continue to work towards the safety of the citizens. I know this kind of sits in the county, and unfortunately the results are ending up in our city. And according to this report, based on some concerns that they even found there, that there is definitely a risk for injury. It doesn't actually go into the word death, but the fact of it is, if a projectile comes over that hill, it's going to be a problem. And we have actually documented projectiles. Again, we cannot prove a direct link other than the most recent ones, but we've got them clear over by Oregon, headed towards I-15. So I do believe this is a real concern. We want to be able to support Ron. We are, as the City of Hurricane, the police department, willing to do everything in our power to make sure that we are promoting safety and supporting you. This regional sports park is something that is widely used. It's used by law enforcement, and we appreciate that. I mean, it's a great tool for our community, and so we're here to help support that and help, I guess, encourage you to pass these resolutions and make the resolutions happen. Any questions you may have?
Now, this is the last, so we actually shut down the range for about, well, it was kind kind of soft shutdown for at least several months, about 2 years ago, right?
Correct.
And we've done quite a bit of improvement,
Right.
fencing, gates, and so on and so forth, building and raising the berms. This is the only incident that's been reported since we put those safety.
No. We've had incidents in 2015 and 2016 as well.
Was that after the?
I think the 2016 may have been the one after, but other than that, it has dramatically slowed down, and we are aware of. But, you know, one of the problems that we're seeing still again, and I got this even reported to me as of this week, and I read it also in your report, we're ending up with targets up on the hillside. And those are a grave concern because of the angles and everything that the NRA has actually come out and specified being problems. And I've had things reported within, and I don't know, I haven't been out there within the last week to determine, or two, to determine that they're there. But I think this is where we've got to get the management to make sure these things don't happen. Unfortunately, and I've been in law enforcement for a lot of years, you know, 80% of the population will comply with the rule just because it's a rule. Another 10% be marginal, and you'll end up with some that irregardless want to do something really stupid. And stupid's what gets people hurt. So I think we've got to be very cognizant and make sure some of these things in there don't end up just happening because we're not really on top of it. But yeah, our most latest one, we haven't had anything virtually for 2 years.
Yeah.
Except for this recent one, which we were absolutely able to trace back to exactly where.
Yeah, I'm still a little fired up about that, no pun intended.
Yeah.
I don't think it should have happened.
No, but here again, this is where, you know, again, I'm looking at the report, and Ron can probably speak by far more eloquently, or someone from the range. I mean, when you talk, I mean, I didn't know, when I read through this, I would have, if somebody would have asked me what the best substance to put on the ground in a range, I would have said sand. But obviously that's been proven to be a problem. And I would have never known that, so I think the money that the county commission paid and was supported by Ron to have this study done gives us the answers that we've never had before. Any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for working with us. You guys do great work.
And likewise,
Yeah.
Hurricane has been a remarkable partner with us in Purgatory and the shooting sports park, and the issues that have come up, we've been able to work cooperatively with each other. We're all interested, not so much in pointing fingers as finding
Absolutely not.
solutions.
We're hearing solutions, and thank you, Commissioner.
You bet.
That's really what we appreciate. Thank you, Chief. So with that, unless Ron or Brent have anything to add.
Do you want me to add something?
Well, it depends. We're starting to break with it. Yeah, after 5. This is supposed to be a special meeting, so. Anyway, well, with that, if everybody's in agreement, I'll just go ahead and make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2018-2344, resolution adopting the standards described in the National Rifle Association Range Source Book as minimum standards at the Southern Utah Shooting Sports Park. And there is one word in there, it's applicable. There will be some time that we'll ask our manager out there to, you know, work with the venues if there's questions in regard to application.
That sounds like a great motion, Commissioner. I'll second that and call for a vote on item 6. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 7, way back in the back.
Superintendent, it's good.
Consideration of resolution number R 2018-2345, a resolution approving a tourism advisory board recommendation for supporting the Zion Canyon multimodal access project. That sounds really intriguing. And we've got Jeff Brady, Law Superintendent of Zion National Park, to explain what that means.
Yeah. Thanks, Commissioners, for the opportunity to talk about this. This is a grant opportunity through U.S. Department of Transportation. It's a partnership opportunity. UDOT is the principal applicant, and the National Park Service, the town of Springdale, and we all agree we would all be know, our shuttle system, the Zion Canyon shuttle system, was started in 2000, and it's been operating, and now in its 19th year. Most of the equipment is original equipment. So part of this grant application is to replace the shuttle fleet, but also following up on the great work that UDOT did in Rockville and Springdale with the street improvements on SR9. The park is also going to be doing some improvements at the entrance, widening the entrance, adding at least one entrance station, reconfiguring the shuttle bus turnaround at the Zion Canyon Visitor Center in the park, and a couple other projects. Altogether, this constitutes this project, the Zion Canyon Multimodal Access Program project, which involves shuttle systems, obviously motorists and their vehicles, but also connects the bicycle trails through Springdale along the road, and then a connection into the park to the shuttle bus hub. And the shuttle buses, of course, can move bicycles as well as folks are able to ride up canyon as well. So it's an integrated project. Last year, you may remember that we applied for a Tiger grant. This particular grant is called BUILD. It's basically the same thing. The acronym is long, but we've changed this to add the components of making those intermodal connections, building upon the UDOT project at the park entrance, and making this kind of a seamless activity for transportation, whether you're a pedestrian, a bicyclist, a motorist, or using the transit system. So the project in total is nearly $35 million, of which we're requesting about $15,700,000 from U.S. Department of Transportation. The other funds are coming from the partners, principally the National Park Service, but also UDOT, the Zion Canyon Forever, or the Zion National Park Forever project is putting up about $225,000. And then there are smaller entities as well. We're asking the commission for a letter of support. Last year, you promised matching funds of about $100,000, and we'd like you to consider that as a possibility again. And all constituted, again, we're asking for $15.7 million from U.S. Department of Transportation. The remainder comes among the partners here locally. Can I answer any questions?
For clarification, we didn't pay $100,000
No.
last year.
That's correct.
And the Tiger grant changed to a BUILD grant. You're asking us to recommit what the commission committed to last year on the new grant application.
If you're comfortable with that.
Well, and I think it does the grant good, right? To have the partners and the federal government knows there's other people with participation, skin in the game. So
yes, a couple of things, Commissioner, about this grant is it focuses on rural systems, of which obviously we qualify, and on partnerships. And so we have about 6 partners that are contributing matching funds, and then we have another 4 or 5 that are providing letters of support and essentially kind of an in-kind service.
exactly. Well, supported it last time, and I think it's a good idea. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2018-2345, a resolution approving a tourism advisory board recommendation supporting the Zion Canyon Multimodal Access Project.
Okay, I will second that. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Passes
Appreciate
unanimously.
all the work
support of the commission and all the county staff. They're always great.
Thank you, Superintendent Brady Bob. Item number 8, consideration of resolution. And Eric, I want you to notice that I'm saying consideration of resolution so that we're doing this right. A resolution authorizing the filing of cross appeals for a 2018 centrally assessed property. Maybe you explain what that means.
Yeah, Commissioners, it's that time of year again that we go through this process. There are a number of property owners in Washington County that own properties statewide. Utility companies that have power lines that run through our counties, or natural gas companies, cell phone companies that have cell towers around the state. And those properties are valued for taxation purposes by the state rather than having each individual county do that. And then, when they get those valuations, several of those property taxpayers they may feel that the state's overvalued them and they can appeal that valuation and lower their tax burden. What that ends up doing in the long run is costing Washington County residents, it can cause local taxes to increase a bit as those other tax values get decreased. And so for 20 to 30 years, the counties generally have participated in those appeals. When someone files an appeal, the counties have joined in that so that we can make sure that things are held tight. There's been some transition on that in the last couple of years as we've, in counties, have been trying to figure out, is that efficient? Is there a better way for us to do it? And we're kind of dividing into groups. Our county, the county attorney's office has become more involved. In the past, we were very hands-off. We just hired outside counsel to do that. Our county attorney's office has become more involved, and most of the other larger counties are following that model. Some counties are just stepping completely out and saying, hey, the state can defend its valuation, and other counties are continuing to use outside counsel. So this is our first appeal for this year. We'll probably have a half dozen to a dozen more in the next month. And it's your guys' choice as to what model you want to continue to follow. County Attorney's Office is very comfortable with where we're at least for another year, to kind of see how things shake out as we're talking with other counties and seeing if this is the best way to move forward, if there are other ways. But we'll obviously do whatever you'd like.
But as I see this, we have centrally assessed for these large companies that have properties in multiple counties, and we have county assessed for individual taxpayers whose property is wholly contained within the county. And so by participating in this, actually what we're trying to do is protect the position of the county assessed properties, because the way the Utah State statute is set up, if these centrally assessed values go down, all of our other taxpayers have to lift a little bit more to offset that difference under the law. And so I think it's incumbent upon us actually to try to defend our county assessed taxpayers. And so Commissioner Iverson, I would
Entertain a motion?
entertain a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2018-2346, a resolution authorizing the filing of cross appeals for a 2018 centrally assessed property.
I will second the motion and call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 And I would say that the system we're using now is far better than it was a few years ago when we did it through the Utah Association of Counties, and a lot of times we had people representing us that we didn't even sure. So.
Item number 9. I'm going to get tarred and feathered for making this one of the long meetings.
No kidding, Zach goes out of town, look what happened.
Yeah.
You might hear about this for a while.
Public Works, Ron. I guess Nicole is doing the heavy lifting for you right now.
She is. I just want you to know I didn't request all this PowerPoint presentation. This is going to lengthen the meeting out significantly.
But it makes you look better.
Depending on how many questions you guys have. Hey, I appreciate Chief Exel. I don't know where he went. I need to tell him
No
thanks.
kidding, he was
It
really
pretty
giving
nice.
us
What did you pay him?
I come here usually thinking I'll get chastised or cussed by somebody for trying to do the right thing, and occasionally someone like him walks in. That's pretty nice. Basically what you can see here is the location of our chip seal projects. Did they make it through Vail today? should be through Vale, and they should be down on the Gunlock Highway, and this is just.
So Mayor, did we get, the road that you were talking about, Mayor Hughes?
It needs work. I talked to them the other day. They got, that was one of the first projects they put that stuff on. They didn't put it on thick enough, that roto mill, so they basically told me they probably gotta re-grind it up and then do something else.
You know, you have a county employee out there, if you just, maybe have him go out on Saturdays and do a little bit of extra work there in Vale.
Not that we would pay him
They
time and a
told me
half.
that.
We're not authorizing overtime, we're hoping that they'll do it as a charitable service.
So we have a lot of roads we'd like to have more of that road mill we could put on. It makes a pretty good road if you get it on thick enough. And
Yeah, this is one you tried to do right at the beginning. It wasn't thick enough, so it's pretty, they can't blade it now, they can't maintain it or do that good anymore. There's so much road to go on.
So that's not one of them are chip and seal, unfortunately, because we don't have adequate base on the road. But the roads we're chip and sealing this go around are in Vale, the east side of Vale, going off the hill from Vale down towards Gunlock. We'll go down into Gunlock. There's a side road down there in McGregor Place we do that's public road, and then we go on through Gunlock down onto the reservation. We'll do the cross connect road from Gunlock Highway to Mataqua. Protect that material we put on there and keep it in good shape. And then we'll go on down to Highway 91. We'll go west up Highway 91 to the top of the hill to the old Mataqua exit. There's been some new overlay there. We've had some humps taken out of the road. We'll smooth that out a little bit. It's still moving a little bit, but we need to protect that, and they'll turn and go back east on Highway 91 into Islands.
Any special things people should be aware of on these chip and seal projects?
We try and keep one lane open or keep a lane moving so they can go around it, but it does slow them down a little bit, so just be careful if you have to go that way. If you don't have to go that way, there is an alternate road around it, take that. In this case, it would probably be clear down through St. George, so it really wouldn't save much time, but just go slow, make sure you're taking care when you pass the trucks and the chipper. They can't always see around everything very well. It helps when the people go slow and take their time around them for our men and for the people, the safety, the public, they travel by. So that's primarily where our chip seal is going to be this time. The only other road we have planned is the road down into Legacy Park. It's been there a long time. It's in need of some repair, and I think they've widened it out just a little bit along the shoulders, and we'll get that chip and then give us time to come back in. And at some point, with you guys' approval and some funding, we'll widen that out to full 2 lanes each direction going in and out of the park there, move people in and out more efficiently. The only other thing I wanted to add is we're deep in the heart of fire season already. Sounds like tomorrow that the big fire crews are going to release West Valley Fire back to the local fire people to take care of. They think they've got a lot of it fenced off and kept in place, so we'll burn some more stuff right in the middle, but it should be okay according to them. But just be careful out on public lands. Make sure you don't leave anything out there that can cause a fire lately. We've got a lot of thunderstorms coming through, and we do have a second set of fire restrictions in place. If you're not familiar with that, go on the county website. It's listed on there, come from the governor right on down. So we're under a lot of scrutiny right now, and as you've known, the last 2 weeks we've been pretty much covered from fire from one end of the state to the other.
No fires down, even in campgrounds.
Yeah, so it's a different experience if you're going out camping. Lucky we're in the area that's probably warm enough we can camp and survive and enjoy it, feel cool and think life is good, but up north it's a little different. But just be careful out there, shooting, whatever you're doing. You don't want to have any more of these start up. So that's all I have. Unless you have any questions about chip and seal?
No. Thank you, Ron.
Appreciate you, Ron.
Thanks.
We find ourselves at the end of our agenda. I'll take a motion to you, Commissioner, that we adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you.